Board meeting Wednesday, August 9th at 9:01. We'll start off with any public comment.
No, ma'am. None received.
Okay. And we'll go to item number 2, adoption of minutes for the RMA board meeting of July 12th, 2017.
So move.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 2 is passed. Item number 3, update on activities related to the removal of tolls from the Cesar Chavez Express toll lanes and discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the suspension of tolls. Mr. Tez.
Thank you. Raymond Tejas, Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. So today you have before you as this item number 3, an update on activities related to the removal of tolls from the Cesar Chavez Express toll lane. So as you know, and I've briefed you all periodically, we've been working towards the removal of tolls from Cesar Chavez for quite some time now. So I wanted to bring a very brief update. And secondly, there's also a board resolution attached as backup to the agenda, which would actually suspend the tolls starting later this evening. So by way of background then, as you know, we've been discussing removing tolls for quite some time. To date, we've had multiple meetings with TxDOT. We've spoken with our general engineering consultant team, with our integrator team, with our outside attorneys, and again, many times with TxDOT to figure out exactly how to implement this. So we have a working list of agreements that we will be bringing back to you in the coming months to either terminate, amend, or deal with in one way or another going forward. I will mention, though, that very recently, as you know, the Texas Transportation Commission, which is the governing board of TxDOT, took up this item and actually authorized their executive director and staff to take those actions necessary to assist the RMA in the removal of tolls. So the first item out of the chute then would be to suspend the tolls, and subject to your comments and direction, I would recommend that we actually suspend the tolls this evening at midnight. So hopefully you've had a chance to review the resolution. It does several things, actually. It authorizes the executive director to actually suspend the tolls. So I've got a draft letter that's ready to go to our integrator that would actually suspend the tolls beginning at midnight this evening. It also directs me to continue to work on the collection activities necessary for those tolls that have been properly incurred against toll users. So in other words, the idea is that while the tolls will be suspended from this evening going forward, those tolls that have been incurred prior are still active and valid, and we need to continue those collection activities. And then the third item on the resolution actually authorizes me, or really directs me, to continue those activities necessary for the full removal of tolls. And what that really means is when you look at the system as it stands now, there's equipment in the ground, there's signage over the roadway, there's gantries, there's cameras, all those things that we've talked about in the past. We've developed an approach with TxDOT on how to remove those items and actually implement the full removal of tolls. So this third item from the resolution really just directs me to continue those activities, and I can come back to you with a more detailed briefing on how that will happen in the coming months. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of this resolution.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Certainly.
a question. And that is, and we heard last time from the county, and the county's concern was that when they chose their toll system for the Tornillo crossing, that they chose it to match. The reason for the choice was because of the system that was already in place on the border highway, and perhaps it would not have been the choice had they known that they were losing that. But certainly there was the expectation of some economies of scale to have both on the same system. So at our last meeting, you were directed to engage the county and visit with them on the implications and how that might dovetail into this effort. Could you comment on that?
Certainly. So I made sent several emails and I believe a phone call or two to try to get with them. There was initially the the goal was to put me on one of the Commissioners Court agendas. That never happened, and I never heard back from the county. I will, but let me speak directly to the issue at hand, and that is, while Cesar Chavez goes away, the Border West Expressway does not. So the Border West Expressway uses the exact same system that Cesar Chavez uses. We've also been discussing for quite some time with the City of El Paso upgrading their system as well, so that it would merge and it would integrate into our existing system with Border West Expressway. So that conversation that we had with the county several years back about Tornillo was not just about, and in fact, it really wasn't about economies of scale, because while we used our integrator and our system, the savings would only have been, an economies of scale sort of savings would only have occurred if we were buying their equipment while we were buying ours, and that really, from a timing perspective, never really worked out. The real goal, though, was to have a system here regionally that spoke to each other. So that was, the goal was Tornillo speaking to Santa Fe, to the various ports of entry here, and also the RMA's toll system, which that's still the intent. Border West Expressway is coming online, and that will speak with Tornillo if the county ever chooses to turn the Tornillo tolls on.
And there will be some liquidation value, I presume, with what's on the expressway, correct?
Minimally, there is some. Some of that will go towards scrap and that sort of thing. There is some sensitive equipment that we will pull off before. So, and I should back up. I should have mentioned this as well. What we're really envisioning for the actual physical removal of the toll system actually includes two different approaches. The first would be our integrator will go in and will take down the sensitive equipment, so the server, the cameras, the readers, all of that true tolling equipment that the RMA purchased. We'll take all of that down, and we will warehouse that. We'll likely use some of that as backup for the Border West Expressway. So that's really, in essence, the savings. Then what's left are the gantries and all of the heavy equipment, the signing and striping and all that sort of thing. TxDOT actually has proposed, and I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of saving public dollars and that sort of thing. TxDOT, here the El Paso district, has proposed that they would remove all of that equipment for us. We have an existing agreement with them to do certain maintenance activities on the roadway, so we can use an existing agreement. So it makes a lot of sense. So in terms of salvage, there's salvage of the tolling improvements, the tolling equipment that we will take in-house, and we'll try to use some of that for Border West Expressway. But in terms of the gantries and that sort of thing, it's pretty minimal, but that will be included in the decommissioning contract that TxDOT will implement for us.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? There's a motion.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I would like to just mention that I apologize to the public because the announcement of removing of those tolls got ahead of actually the action of the RMA, and so it created some confusion for the public. So I would make it very clear that at the end of today, at midnight, we would the tolls then will be suspended and not before then. Thank you. So we'll move on to item number 4, quarterly presentation, updated discussion on the following programs or projects. A, 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan, and B, El Paso Streetcar Project. Mr. Head.
Good morning. I'm David Head with the GEC, and I'm presenting the El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan quarterly update. So on the agenda, we'll go back through the project map. It's been updated a little bit, so we'll talk about that. We'll go through the project listing to remind you of all the projects that we have, and then we'll go through the updates on the various different projects, design, under construction, and the others. So this is the project map, and it looks somewhat the same from the last time you've seen it, except on the left-hand side, we've split out what is the vehicle registration fee bond proceeds 1 and 2. So now you can see which ones are funded by which bond proceed. And with that, the VRF2 is the new guys on the block, which is the East Lake Phase 1, the Pelicano Drive, and the Mission Ridge Boulevard Phase 2. So the projects in design are the East Lake Phase 1, the Darrington Road, the Mission Ridge 2, and the Pelicano Drive. Under construction, currently we've got the National Historic Trail, the Vista del Sol project, Old Waco Tanks, East Lake 2, the Rojas Drive, Mission Ridge, and then the ones funded by the RMA for the developer or through the county for a developer or built by the developer is Greg Edgemere. The list hasn't changed that much, but it seems like to me it keeps growing on me. So, excuse me. So projects in design, East Lake Phase 1 is the first one. It's right there in the middle of the page where the big red arrow is, and it goes from I-10 up to Darrington, as you remember. So you can see the dollar amounts. We've gone through 2 amendments on this that were approved through this board, and you can see what's been invoiced to date. This one is pretty much complete. It's 99% is what I'm calling it. There's a few things that we're still pending, which is approval from the MUD for the storm sewer design, and then the right-of-way from the developer. So we're still kind of pending those things, but they're fastly getting wrapped up. The letting schedule, we're looking for late 2017. Probably we're hoping for an October, November letting on that. The probable cost is $26 billion. And this is through the VRF2 bond proceeds. So those are your existing conditions. As you remember from this slide, hasn't changed much. But we will go to construction, and hopefully we can fix this road. Or we will fix this road, actually. Darrington Road project is in design also, and this is right there in the middle of the page with the red arrow, and this is a very important project to the county because it's one of the connections, one of the 2 connections between Pelicano and East Lake Boulevard, which those 2 need to be completed to keep things moving right now. So we're working on this one, and it's quite along in the design process. If you'll remember, it's a 4-lane divided roadway. The contract and the invoice amounts are there. We've gone through 1 amendment, or we're working on 1 amendment that was approved, and we're at the 95% PS&E submittal phase right now. We're looking through those, trying to get all that cleared up, get it ready for the letting process. Construction estimate is at $9.9 million, and we're thinking that this one is going to let sometime in 2018, probably very early. So here's your existing conditions again. This is from just past Pelicano, just north of Pelicano, looking down south towards Darrington Road, and then from East Lake looking up Darrington Road. Very busy street. So let's move over to the projects under construction. So this is the historic signage project, the Camino Real National Historic Trail, and there's 126 signs. We awarded this back in March 2017. The contractor's Lesna. You can see the bid amount, and the pre-construction was held in July. We're just pending the sign submittals to get the signs fab before we go out there and put them up. Contract time, this is a very fast-moving project, so it'll be 3 months. The next project under construction, or in the construction phase, is Vista del Sol. That one is the green line up there next to, it's by 375 and goes to Charrington Road right there. And it's a 4-lane divided road from 375 to Charrington, and the water utility will be in this contract with us. Bain Construction is the contractor. You can see the contract amount, $4.5 million, and it's projected to take 18 months. And We've been pending the right-of-way for some easements to construct this road from the county. We just got to go ahead on that from the county, so now we'll be moving to do the pre-construction meeting and get this project underway. Old Waco Tanks is down on the bottom of the screen, that kind of a aqua-colored project with the red arrow there between I-10 and North Loop. It's a 4-lane road. It's concrete paving. International Eagle is the contractor. We've had the contract amount is, they're shown on your screen. We've had 2 amendments for $0, or 2 change orders really is what that should say, for $0 that you've approved, and then we're at 61% completion, and the time used has been 74%. There's a few things out there pending from design standpoint that we need to get, which should catch him up a little bit. The change orders, there's a few out there, but you'll see some today. And then they're working on the hot mix, concrete paving, drainage ponds, inlets. We've had some issues with the rain also, so we're trying to fix those up. So change orders approved to date are for, if you remember, they were changing the construction for the box culverts and the inlets. They were asked for by the contractor, and those were approved. 0 amount. So this is looking from phase 2 of the project, which is up by I-10, looking down towards North Loop. So you can see that we've completed all the concrete paving down there. They're starting to work on the concrete curbs and those things to finish up that and put the median in, is that leave out section in the middle and those things. We're currently on phase 2. The picture on the left is looking back down the concrete paving, and the picture on the right is looking at the phase 2 construction, which is up by I-10. So they're working on the dirt work, the pipe, storm sewer work, and subgrade in there. So this is just another picture looking towards I-10. So you can see that there's a lot of tear up going on through there, but this project's moving right along. Next project under construction is the East Lake Phase 2, and it's the one over in Horizon City there with the red arrow there from Darrington down to Horizon Boulevard. And this is a 6-lane divided roadway, and Jordan Foster's the contractor. You can see the contract amounts. There's been 2 change orders for this for $9,000, and to date we're at 43% complete, and we've used 27% of the time. We've combined some of the phases to move this thing along. We think we will be out of East Lake fairly soon. They're working on phase 2 and phase 3 right now, so we'll get them out of the main part of East Lake where everybody's commuting from, and that'll help the traffic out. Then we'll be out in the desert on phase 5. And they're working on embankment, excavation, hot mix, a number of things through there. It's a big, long project, so there's a lot of things going on through there. Change orders approved to date are change orders 1 and 2. You can see the amounts that were approved through this board. So this is where the traffic is currently right now. This is the new pavement that we just built. The cars are on the southbound side when we get everything done, but we've got all the cars over there right now, and we're working on the northbound side, doing the dirt work, the pipe, and those things for phase 2 and phase 3. This is just another look at this where we've done some concrete paving and looking back up towards phase 2. This again is the phase 2 and phase 3 where they're doing the dirt work, and things are getting tore up and put back together fairly quickly. This is out on phase 5. This is the hot mix that's out there, and we've got curb and gutter and those things in place. We're still working on some of the ponds, and we're trying to, well, we're starting to work down towards Horizon Boulevard to get before the school gets back in session, get some of that done down there, so we're not affecting them. The next project is Rojas Drive, and it's right there between Bill Burnett and East Lake Boulevard. So it's a 6-lane divided roadway that we're widening to, and Horizon Construction is the contractor. You can see the contract amount and what's been completed to date. We're at 20% completed versus 57% of the time used. We're working on phase 1B and 2B. We're doing concrete paving, hot mix, and storm sewer work. So we've had one change order to date, which was a change in the construction method. And this is a picture looking from East Lake down back towards the west, and that's the newly constructed lanes on the left side, and then what they're building right now on the right. This is just another look at that from, I think, East Lake Boulevard, looking back with the traffic. Seems like the traffic has kind of not died out, but they find another way around right now, so it's helped out. We don't see a huge queue as when we initially put this project in, so I think people are getting used to it. Now we'll see when we get things put back together what happens with that in East Lake 1, but I think it'll be fine.
Mr. Head, on the percentage completed and the time, are we going to get back on target?
We are trying to, yes, ma'am. We have put the bonding company on notice that we're not happy with the progress on this project. We've taken the staging or the traffic control sequencing and put them together so that they can work as a little bit more efficiently as a bigger project, just to get the work done. There were some issues with some of the storm sewer work that we've worked out, and hopefully, or we're trying to get back on schedule. I don't know that that can happen at this point, to be quite honest with you, but we will complete this project, whether for better or for worse, but we're trying to get back on schedule, but it's quite a difference.
Thank you. Mr. Wardy.
So what's the major problem or problem? What are the major problems?
Well, one of them you'll see in the change order today, where we had a delay at the start, which was not the contractor's fault. It was a delay due to the mud putting in some water lines that were not shown in the plan. So there's about 22 days there that they'll gain on that. So the days percent complete will change a little bit with the percent days spent. So that'll help out a little bit. Like I said, we had combined the project so that we're doing 1B and 2A together, so that they can do just one long line of construction, and that should help some of the efficiency. But you know, it's up to the contractor to get his crews working, and we've been working with them, and I think that some of it's just inexperience in this work, but I believe they'll get there, and hopefully that we'll see that they catch up on some of this. So
I don't get a warm, fuzzy feeling from that. Why would we select a contractor that did not have that type of experience in building a roadway like this?
Well, it's this contractor, it was under the low bid system, and they had the credentials that we were asking for to do the work, and believe that some of they just didn't realize that what they were doing as far as some of the work that, the concrete paving and those things.
Thank you.
Okay, Mission Ridge Boulevard is the next project under construction, and with this one, it's pretty much, it's been complete. We're just trying to get the MUD to accept their portion of the work that was completed, and we think that we're there with that, so we should be wrapping this project up as far as getting the acceptances and moving this off of the books as to a completed project. So the contractor was CMD Endeavors. You can see the contract amount. The final contract amount is there shown at $4.6 million. Those are the days by change order, the time used, and we're just waiting on the plant warranty period and the MUD acceptance, which should happen fairly shortly.
Mr. Taz, sorry, can I get IT in here? My system had a reboot, thanks. Go ahead, Mr. Head. Go ahead.
So these are the pictures of the Mission Ridge Boulevard. It was completed. I think it's a nice facility, and we've got the next portion of this coming up in design, so it should move quickly to construction also, because the developer is doing the design on the Mission Ridge 2, which butts up to this, which, if you remember back on the pictures, let me go back. Mission Ridge is the green one, Mission Ridge 1, Mission Ridge 2 is the purple one, and the county is wanting to connect between East Lake and Pelicano, so they're wanting that Mission Ridge 2 done very, very quickly, so that's moving forward, and you'll see that come online here pretty quick. There's just, again, some pictures of Mission Ridge Boulevard that's been constructed at Mission Ridge 1. The last project I have is the Gregg Edgemere extension. This was it's up at the very top of the page, or the slide in brown up there, and goes between Edgemere and Gregg. It's currently, I think, a dirt road, or it was just a dirt path before they started construction. So it's a 4-lane divided with bike lanes. The RMA is funding the construction through the payment to the county through $2.5 million. The work done is through a county developer participation agreement. And they're currently doing the subgrade, the curb and gutter, and the PSB is placing the water lines for a school that's coming out there very shortly. These are just some pictures of it. The first picture on your top left is from Edgemere looking out east down the project. Then you've got some pictures in the project, and then the picture on the right bottom is from Gregg looking back west towards Edgemere. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Head? Thank you. Good report. Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to B, El Paso streetcar.
Good morning. I'm Gil Gardner, the construction manager for the El Paso streetcar, and I'm here today to give you a presentation of our status for this quarter. Our agenda for today will be, we'll give a progress summary, discuss our SBAE progress, give you a construction update, have a very short construction on the discussion on the PCC vehicles, the implementation of the operations plan development, where we are on that, our community involvement, and then construction manager, and then any questions. On a progress summary to date, the infrastructure contract sum is $61 million. That was the initial amount, $102,602. Cost of change orders to date is $5,227,339 for a revised contract sum of $236,239,941. The work completed to date is a little over $58 million. We're about 88% complete with the work to date for the infrastructure. The work breakdown, just to give you a reminder of it, is the civil track work and MSF, which is the basic streetcar system, was $47,343,228. The wastewater base bid 2, which was the replacement of the wastewater lines along the corridor, $922,000. Base bid 3, which is the potable water replacement, is $3.188 million. And then base bid 4, which is the civil sidewalk work and paving for CBD 4, was $2,261,416. We've had change orders of $4,447,000 in addition. The project goal, the SBE goal for this project was 8%, or a little over $5 million. To date, the PDNT, the contractor, has used 19 SBE contractors from the local community, and they've completed over $6.6 million worth of work, which means that they have exceeded their SBE goal for the project. On a construction update, the MSF is complete. They're doing their final cleanup right now, currently working on punch list items, landscaping, and sidewalk. We're working on a process right now that will transfer this facility over to Sun Metro, so Sun Metro's team can start, Sun Metro can start putting their team together, getting used to the site, and being ready for next year. All the traction power substations have been installed. Traction power A1 and A2 are waiting on power, which I think is on today's agenda. 65% of all of the OCS poles have been installed. All of the foundations are now in place, which means that all of the underground work has been completed. The second wire run will be installed on Kansas Street this coming quarter here. We'll be doing work on that. Track work is continuing or finalizing, you might say, along Stanton Street, Oregon Street, between Stanton and Oregon, between Wyoming and Franklin. I know you guys can see all the work out there. We've actually completed the bridges. We're working on each side right now, and that should be completed up within the next few weeks. The embedded track construction is complete on Kansas, Franklin Street, Father Rom Avenue, Santa Fe Street, and we just finished up Glory Road and the Baltimore area, so Mesa is now open. And we've just completed the track work in the MSF in the Downtown Transit Center. So all of that work is complete. The final piece of rail will be placed soon on Stanton Street. And in fact, I believe it is tomorrow we're going to have a signing. Everybody, Barracuda has sent out notices to everybody, and we have felt tip pens so you can sign that last piece of track. It'll be come and go. You don't have to wait there for it. Sign it, and that'll kind of be, shall we say, El Paso streetcar equivalent of the Golden Spike, if you want to call it that. As I mentioned just a moment ago, the Mesa Street rail work is complete. Mesa is now open to the public. We managed to open up to the public a couple of days ahead of schedule. I would like to say that the contractor had done a great job of maintaining traffic during that period there, and probably a combination of things, one of them being out of school, another one, as David talked about on one of his projects, where people learned to avoid the situation. We really had very little problem with traffic while they were working on it. So, but it is open. It's ready to flow now. Baltimore is now, or not Baltimore, Cincinnati's closed because they're doing work on that, but people can commute back and forth using Mesa. The work on Father Rom Avenue and Kansas Street is approximately 90% complete. The city is to provide additional plans. In fact, they just provided them to us. We're reviewing them now for some pedestrian improvements that we hope to bring aboard before the board within the next month or so for a change order. The underground relocations of all of the water, storm sewer, and sanitary sewer work are complete now. We're still doing flat work, the sidewalk, the ramps, curb and gutter along Stanton, Oregon, and a little bit around the maintenance facility. Final striping has actually begun. They're starting the final striping now. And then the Cincinnati street improvements started on August 9th. So they're working on the Cincinnati improvements. For the vehicles, the contractors, Brookville Equipment Corporation, they received a notice to proceed on October 15, 2015. The initial contract value was $18.8 million. There have been 2 contract amendments for a little over $266,000 for a current contract value of $19,061,000. Invoice to date is $8.8 million. And I'd like to say on the invoice, this contract is invoiced on milestones, so when the milestones are achieved, payment is made and there is a payment value on it. So it's kind of difficult to give a percentage of completion because it is milestones based. The work includes 6 vehicles, the system support, the training, and the spare parts. Right now they've got the 6 vehicles are at Brookville, ready for remanufacturing. The cars appear to be in very, very good condition. 4 vehicles are now in the process itself. The vehicle number 1, the car body repair and enhancements are complete. For vehicle number 2, they're underway. For vehicle number 3, they're blasting to start. They started the grit blasting in early August. And vehicle 4, they've just started the process. So each one is, one right after the other. The delivery, the design process is complete or nearing completion as of August. And the delivery of the vehicles for testing is scheduled to start of the delivery it'll occur between January 2018 and September of 2018 for the last one. So they'll come one vehicle at a time. The designs for all of the major systems that within the vehicle are complete. These include the interior design. They went through and did a major interior design, designed the wheelchair lifts. As you know, we have HVAC on it. It's got an upgraded brake system, to meet current standards. Upgraded battery system for backup. This is using the pantograph instead of trolley poles. Upgraded the door systems, and more importantly, upgraded the propulsion systems to assure that the vehicles can go up the 9 to 10% grade on Stanton. The test program for the vehicle manufacturers being developed and being provided. We've got numerous test procedures already developed. They're under review or they're in development. The propulsion system test was scheduled for August of 2017. And the main test, these will be factory tests, will be at the Brookville's manufacturing facilities. This will start in the fall of 2017. And then they will continue the test in El Paso. That will start in January of 2018. This are a few pictures of what the vehicles look like right now. This is the PCC vehicle number 1. And what'll really be, keep this in your mind because I'm going to show you 3 and 4 here shortly and you can see the difference in them. This is vehicle number 1. As I said, it's primed, it's ready for final finish. And they're really taking pride in their work. And we didn't show the ones for the others. The others still show rusting, if you recall one of the previous ones, but this is what they look like now. For the implementation and operations plan development, this is really important because these are the plans that Sun Metro reviews to run this system. We've been meeting with Sun Metro and the First Transit representatives to expedite the plan development. We're finalizing the testing and startup plan, especially for our portion of it. We delivered a presentation to Sun Metro on the testing and startup schedule as to where they were, what their role was, what our role would be, so forth. And then as part of that, we established objectives to obtain, very importantly, the system safety certification by the state safety officer. Sun Metro has already begun the hiring process. In fact, have made an offer and have hired a safety manager, which is a major step. And they're developing their operations, maintenance, and other plans that they will be using to operate this system here. For community involvement, we've been holding weekly stakeholder meetings. We went bi-weekly in July because of the nature of the work. And we still, distribute bilingual door-to-door notifications in impacted areas. Examples are the Stanton Street between Yandell and Cincinnati, the Glory Road, Baltimore and Mesa between Oregon and there to keep the people informed. We also did this very strongly in the Father Rom area when we were doing a major amount of work there, and it's very similar to what we're doing here. We've done recent presentations to the neighborhood and civics group. The last one that I attended was a District 1 community meeting to go over and give a status of the project in that area. The public relations team has held a public open house event to review the lane restrictions on Mesa at Glory Road in Baltimore. It was very important we do that so the area and the neighborhood knew what was coming. I think because of that, we had minimal amount of problems as far as traffic control while we were doing the work there. They also had a media open house for the maintenance and storage facility once the facility was 99% complete, and it was very successful. The representative was there. A lot of people, we had a lot of media there, and I think we got a lot of good, media coverage on it. And together with, this is just a sample of what we did on the community involvement. We've done the videos online. We've kept people explaining the street closures and the lane restrictions. We've had a project hotline now for the last 2 years, and we've issued the weekly e-newsletters and provided all of the regular updates on Instagram. We've had a very strong community relations program, which now that we're wrapping up construction, will start to kind of taper off a little bit, but they still will be a part of it, and we'll use them as we need them. And this I touched a few minutes ago, the signing ceremony. This is the Make Your Mark. This is an event commencing the final rail to be placed. It will occur tomorrow at from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's kind of a come and go. You can come in, you can sign the rail. It's at the 400 block on North Stanton Street. The public has been invited to come in and sign that final piece. We hope that it's just totally covered up with felt tip pin marks. And anyway, in the construction management, we have received 531 submittals to date, of which 530 of them are closed. We have one that's finalizing the process here. Of RFIs, we've received 402 to date. We've closed out 398 of them for going through the final processing right now. We've had quarterly partnering sessions with the contractor all during construction. We feel that they've been very successful. We'll have our final partnering session, I believe, next month as we transition from the construction of the civil and track work into the finalization of the systems work. Anyway, that's it. That's my presentation for today. Any questions?
Good report. Congratulations on that. That's
Okay.
great.
I
Any
have
questions?
a question.
Mr.
Yes. I live near Stanton, and so I take it every day. And of course, it's a choke point, in the mornings because so many people take Stanton getting downtown, and yet the design of it, you know, I'm just troubled by the design because there's only one lane on Stanton between Cincinnati and Schuster. And then there's parallel parking alongside that one lane, so people that are going to be parallel parking are going to stop traffic altogether while they're parking. There's nothing, I don't think there's anything that can be done, but I'm asking for a little reassurance that when the traffic engineers looked at this, that it's all going to be okay.
I can give you that assurance, you might say, at least from the traffic engineers, they did say. A couple of things I would like to point out, and I know what you're talking about as you're going south, especially on Stanton. But a couple of things to point out there is that the way it looks right now, it kind of looks as if the streetcar lane is a streetcar only lane, when in fact it's really not a streetcar only lane. Remember, that streetcar is going to be going rather slow coming up the hill, and it's going to be coming maybe every 10, every 15 minutes. And that lane also can be used as a left turn lane, continuous left turn, or in the case where somebody wants to parallel park and they're kind of blocking the travel lane, or even a bus stop, then the driver can go around into the streetcar lane. There's not going to be any restriction that allows him to go around and move into that center lane where the streetcar is. Now, obviously, if the streetcar is right in front of him, he can't do it, but we feel that the traffic will be calm enough that this will occur. One of the other things that will happen, and you're right, they do use this. I use Stanton quite a bit to come down. Either coming downtown, I come down to Stanton to Schuster, over to Schuster to Kansas, and then, you know, flit on downtown. But now that we've finished our work there, Mesa will go back being a major corridor, and I think once we've got the barricades out, once we've got the signing and striping out, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised as to how easy it will to use it. It will not be, and the intent is not for it to be a high-speed corridor. And I think that's a key element. And one of the things that Fred wanted to do whenever they looked at it was to slow the running speeds down because of the nature of the neighborhood. You know, I don't mean it's going to be 25 miles an hour, but it's not going to be a 50-mile-an-hour corridor, or 45 like Mesa is in certain areas. But I think you'll be pleasantly surprised as to how it works. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Gardner? No. Thank you very much. All right.
Okay.
So we'll move on to item number 5, discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the following change orders to construction contracts from the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan. We're going to take all these together. A, East Lake Boulevard Phase 2 project, change order number 3 with Jordan Foster Construction regarding a change to a curb inlet. B, East Lake Boulevard Phase 2 project, change order number 4 with Jordan Foster Construction regarding a change to the retaining wall at pond number 6. C, Rojas Drive Improvements project, change order number 2 with Horizon Construction regarding a water line conflict. And D, Old Waco Tanks Road project, change order number 4 with International Eagle, resolving a conflict with an illumination pole on North Lobe. Mr. Tejas.
Yes, ma'am. So now that you are all up to date with the Comprehensive Mobility Plan and the streetcar, we've got some change orders from the Comprehensive Mobility Plan and a couple of contracts on streetcar. So first up, we'll have Mr. Head provide details on the proposed change orders under item number 5.
Good morning, David Head with the GEC, and I'll be presenting the change orders. As I told you on the quarterly report, we're busy, so there's going to be change orders and things. But with that, East Lake Phase 2 is the first one that we have change orders on, and you can see that it's over there on the right side of your screen with the red arrow. So we've had 2 change orders to date in green. Those have been approved, and so we're talking about change orders number 3 and 4. Number 3 is there's a curb inlet that's in the way of a water line, so we needed to move it out of the way, and so we've come up with a change order to turn that into a grate inlet to get away from that water line. So that one's the $12,986.65. And then also on that project, change order number 4 is the construction of a retaining wall around pond number 6. This is a big pond down by Horizon. It was taken down, and there was some design issues with it. The roadway was a little lower than what the pond was, and so, or the retaining wall for the pond, and so they did not show they showed a regular retaining wall, but or regular rock wall, but not a retaining wall is what is going to be needed for the project. We looked at several different scenarios. Could we excavate around the area, and the roadway would be, we could move some of the dirt so that we could not need, or so that we would not need a retaining wall. But when we looked at it, the costs were about the same, and we've got a problem with the traffic on the construction part of the project. Right now we're doing a precast barrier wall and that sort of thing, so we need the road, and it's going to be taken up, so we can't move down the other side of the road because it's all brand new paving with dirt work equipment will tear it up. So the best case scenario was to put in the retaining wall, which is at $113,000. It ended up being the cheapest of the two alternatives. So I'm asking for approval on those, which comes out to $135,099.52 for total on all of the change orders to date. So the next project we're talking about is the Old Waco Tanks project. And we've had 2 change orders approved to date, which are the changes to the construction methods for box culverts and the manholes for $0 amount. We have another change order number 3 that's in the works that we have not finished the negotiations with the contractor on, so we're not bringing that to the board at this time. But change order number 4 is an issue with down at North Loop. TxDOT had a project rebuilding North Loop, and they put in the illumination poles where they stand right now. And then TxDOT did the plans for the Old Waco Tanks project, and those same illumination poles are in the way for a signal and for a turn lane. So we've gone back to TxDOT and asked them what they would like to do, and they asked us to move them out of the way. So this is the relocation of those for $19,905. Excuse me. So the next project is the Rojas Drive project. And the first change order that was approved was for the construction method for the 2 manholes. But what we're talking about today is change order number 2, which is there was a water line very early on in the project which conflicted with the proposed RCP pipe storm sewer, and they were totally stopped for 22 additional days. We could not get the MUD to do anything about it. It took a while to, well, I don't want to say that. They did look at it, but it took a very long time to come up with a solution to this problem, and they were they were stopped dead in their tracks, could not move. They'd done all the work in that phase of the project, and we had to compensate them for that time, the additional days and the equipment that was down, those things. Then also there was an overrun in the bid items due to a temporary transition. What this is the hot mix. When you come from the concrete paving down onto the old road, we needed to transition in with hot mix there. So that was also added into this change order. And then the last piece of this change order is the county asked us to block off a side road there where the traffic was cutting through from East Lake down to Rojas, and they were getting complaints, so we put in some barricades there, and so that will be carried through this next phase of work, and it's an equestrian road. So that was requested by the county. So all of that is for $79,695. believe I'll entertain any questions if you may have them.
Any questions for item 5? Entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, items 5A, B, C, and D have been approved. Thank you, Mr. Head. Item number 6, discussion and action on one or more interlocal agreements with the City of El Paso for reimbursement of project expenses and the establishment of acceptance procedures related to the El Paso streetcar. Mr. Tez.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So this item then is read into the record, speaks to an interlocal agreement with the City of El Paso. We've been speaking with the city for quite some time about several things. Certain reimbursements for expenditures made by the city to be reimbursed by the Regional Mobility Authority, and the reverse as well. And really, just by way of background, there's actually a couple more agreements that you're going to see between us and the City of El Paso related to these activities, because really what we're trying to do is establish two things. It's to finalize the reimbursements back and forth, and we'll talk a little bit about the ones that are before you today. And then you'll also see an agreement in the coming months that will actually formalize the process by which the RMA will actually transfer the assets of the project over to the City of El Paso, whether it's a maintenance and storage facility, the tracks, the power stations, the vehicles, or other assets of the particular project as they are accepted by the RMA from the contractor. But again, that's just a bit of a preview in terms of what's coming. For today, though, you have an interlocal agreement before you that does really just two things. It reimburses the City of El Paso for expenditures that it has made and will make on behalf of the project. And then it does the reverse as well. It reimburses the Regional Mobility Authority for certain expenditures it has made for the project on the city's behalf that are outside of project expenses. And then really kind of a subset of that is that the City of El Paso has agreed to provide certain equipment to the project to reduce the project expenses. So let me get into details here. Really what we're talking about is actually four individual reimbursements, and you'll see these in the agreement, which is provided as backup. 4 reimbursements from the RMA to the City of El Paso. We've got a little over $221,000 that we will provide to the City of El Paso for them to install IT equipment, cabling, and security in the maintenance and storage facility. And really, I should have mentioned that the thinking here in the early stages of the planning for this particular project was that since the city has unique IT requirements, they've got unique security systems that they have in each of their city facilities. The idea was that we would provide the project funding to the city, and they would procure through sole source or however they do that, they would procure their unique needs, and these are those types of needs. So IT and security for the maintenance and storage facility at a little over $221,000, $66,700 for the furniture and fixtures there at the facility. And the thinking here was the city has existing relationships with furniture and fixtures providers, so we're just basically leveraging that existing relationship. Otherwise, it would have cost the project more to go out and do this on a one-time basis. And the third item Mr. Gardner referred to earlier, and those are the operations and safety manuals that need to be developed for the program. We're providing $55,000 to Sun Metro to complete those manuals. Now that's important because, as Mr. Gardner mentioned, they now have a safety manager on board. They're pursuing the hiring of a maintenance supervisor and various other individuals and positions that will actually be tasked with developing these manuals. So we're providing $55,000 towards that effort. I should mention each of those 3 activities were included in the original project budget, so these were anticipated expenditures. And actually there's a 4th, excuse me. This one was a bit unique. If you remember, at the very beginning of the project, the City of El Paso had 6 of their PCC vehicles located on the airport grounds near the runway. There were 3 of them that were located off-site with a private company. The City of El Paso at that time paid $30,750 to relocate all 9 vehicles into a single location. And we told them that we would reimburse them. The idea was we needed all of them together in one place, and in a secure location where vendors could come and kick the tires and look under the trucks and look up on the roof and get a feel for what they were going to be bidding on. So we agreed to reimburse the city for those moves. So those are the RMA reimbursements to the city. On the reverse, then, the city will be reimbursing us through this agreement for $9,876. And that's for once the vendors had come and looked at the PCC vehicles, and then through our agreement, we allowed them to take the 6 that they preferred. That left 3 vehicles at the airport. And of course, the airport wanted them off of their land and moved to Sun Metro. So at that time, we agreed that we would pay for that move for the 3 vehicles from the El Paso airport over to the Sun Metro facility, and that cost us $9,876, and the city will be reimbursing us for that move. And then an additional expenditure will be a recent request by the city for Oregon Street. And they've asked us to look at pricing out additional signage and striping for bike usage along Oregon. So we've priced that out at $24,925.32, and they've agreed to cover that cost. This is analogous to the Cincinnati expenditures, basically additional expenses that they want to add to the project while we're in the project limit. So that's being added into this agreement. And then 2 other items as well, and this deals with the equipment I mentioned earlier. The Sun Metro early on wanted to make sure that the system that is being used for farebox and Wi-Fi equipment on the PCC vehicles integrates easily and fits with their existing system. If you notice on BusWrap, on their Brio system, you can use Wi-Fi. Their fare boxes are uniform throughout their entire system. So what they agreed to do early on, I should say, is provide the Wi-Fi equipment and also the fare box equipment for the PCC vehicles. So this agreement formalizes that transfer. So that, in a nutshell, is what this agreement does. As I mentioned, there will be additional swaps that will come in a later agreement as we move forward. And then lastly, or potentially in one singular agreement, we will also formalize the process for transferring the assets of the project over to the city of El Paso. So subject to your questions, and I would recommend approval of item number 6.
Any questions, Mr. Tess, Mr. Wardy?
Mr. Tejas, this occurred before this agreement, but has there been any discussions with the city on reimbursement for the removal of the fuel tank at the facility where we spent in excess of $200,000?
Yes, sir. So $200,000 for the removal of the underground storage. I may have this. Actually, you know what? I've got it right here. The answer to your question is yes. Those are ongoing conversations, and those could come back in another agreement should the city agree to it. Just for the record, though, there was we found a bunch of rubble, if you recall. In that location, we spent over $108,000 for removal of that, and then the underground storage tank removal cost $199,000. So that is on the list, and we are speaking to the city about that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good, thank you. All right, item number 6.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 6 is approved. Item number 7, discussion and action on board resolutions to authorize the executive director to execute service agreements with the El Paso Electric Company for the El Paso Streetcar Project for the following locations: A, new power substation located at 2701 North Oregon, and B, existing power substation located at 251 Crosby Avenue. Mr. Tez.
Yes, ma'am. So as you will recall, I've been to you twice on these particular items. These deal with service agreements between the Regional Mobility Authority and the El Paso Electric Company. Anytime an entity, whether it's government like us or private, requires service to a new facility that actually requires the placement of a new transformer, then a service agreement is required. To date, we have entered into 4 separate service agreements, and these all relate to the traction power substations and the powered switch for the rail. So A2, A3, A4, those are each of the various traction power substations have been entered into. Those are at Crosby, at Campbell, and the maintenance and storage facility, and also the switch on Santa Fe. Those have been executed, and I believe all of those have been paid to date. So those are well underway. What you have before you today then under 7A is the final traction power substation, which we've referred to as A1, and that's the one located at UTEP. That one took a little bit longer because there's a lease agreement being negotiated between the city of El Paso and UTEP, and there was also an easement that was required to be granted by UTEP to the electric company. That easement has been granted. The lease is ongoing, but because the easement has been granted, that moves forward the service agreement. So before you, as item 7A, is this service agreement for the UTEP substation, and that is at $21,294.74. And A2 actually is what they refer to as a secondary agreement. And what that means is it really serves as an amendment. And this goes back to the Crosby substation. So that substation is known as A2. The original plan for the Crosby substation had a pole that was providing electrical service overhead to the substation. The electric company has requested that power line actually be underground. So that required an amendment, which they provide as a secondary agreement. So this adds an additional $5,402.31 for A2, which is, again, as item 7B, a secondary agreement. So this will actually, as a final note, this will conclude all of the service agreements that I'm aware of for each of the 4 power substations and the powered switch. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of both.
Any questions for Mr. Tejas?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, items 7 and B have been approved. Item number 8, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute an amendment to the project development agreement for preliminary engineering and environmental services with Texas Department of Transportation for the America's Managed Lanes project. Mr. Tez. Let me read number 9 as well. We're going to take those together. So item number 9, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute a second amendment to the agreement for professional engineering and environmental services with Brown and Gay engineers related to the America's Managed Lanes project. Thank you, Mr. Tibbs.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So as read into the record, items 8 and 9 are linked. They both deal with the America's Managed Lanes project. So item 8 then is the first one up, and that is an amendment to the project development agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation. That is the agreement that actually authorizes the RMA to develop the design work, the environmental and preliminary engineering work necessary for the America's Managed Lanes. What we're doing here today then is amending that project development agreement really to add additional scope, which includes additional survey work that has been requested by the Texas Department of Transportation. And that leads us right directly into item number 9. Because of, or I should say, in response to that original project development agreement several years back, we engaged the Brown and Gay engineering firm, to provide that preliminary engineering and environmental work, and they've been working since the beginning of the project. This item number 9 then is an amendment to their engineering services to add the scope that was requested by TxDOT, which is the additional survey work. Outside of that, TxDOT has independently approved of the additional funding for this activity, which is just shy of $400,000. So subject to your questions then, I would recommend approval of item 8, which is the TxDOT amendment, and item 9, which is the Brown and Gay amendment.
Any questions for Mr. Chance?
Move to approve.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for items 8 and 9. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, items 8 and 9 are approved. Item number 10, discussion and action on a board resolution adopting the RMA budget for fiscal year 2018 as reviewed by the RMA Finance Committee.
Yes, ma'am. So included as backup under this particular item is the proposed fiscal year 18 Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority budget. This item was presented to the Finance Committee on Monday, and the committee came out with a recommendation for the full board to accept or adopt the fiscal year 18 budget. With that, I would ask the chair of the Finance Committee, Mr. Parker, if he has any comments.
Mr. Parker?
No comments from the committee?
So Mrs. Reyes and Mr. Niemer sat on the Finance Committee?
Yes, ma'am. The Finance
So
Committee consists
you're
of
recommending
Mr. Parker as chair and Mr.
approval?
Niemer and Ms. Reyes.
Recommending approval.
Okay, any questions from anyone else? No? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion? To
So
approve?
move.
Okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve item number 10. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So item number 10 has been approved. Item number 11, discussion and action on a board resolution adopting the RMA's investment policy to incorporate the City of El Paso's recently adopted investment policy as the city serves as the fiscal agent to the RMA. Mr.
ma'am.
Tez, do you want to?
So this is a routine item that we do each year. As noted in the agenda, the City of El Paso serves as fiscal agent, and as a requirement of the the Public Investment Act of the State of Texas, governmental bodies must adopt an investment policy. So what we do each year is that the Regional Mobility Authority adopts the most recently adopted City of El Paso investment policy, which is included as part of your backup. But then we add a resolution that adopts that investment policy, but then also tweaks it to make it work specifically for the Regional Mobility Authority. That resolution is part of this item here. So subject to your question, I would recommend approval of item number 11.
Did this go to the Finance Committee?
It did. It was presented
Okay.
at the Finance Committee. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And just for clarification, the policy is not changed at all from last year.
That is my understanding. Correct.
All right.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So item number 11 has been approved. Item number 12, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute an engagement letter with Gibson, Reddick, Patterson, firm for the RMA's fiscal year 2017 annual audit. Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Tez.
So each year, as you know, the regulations that apply to regional mobility authorities require an annual audit. Several years back, we did a procurement for an annual audit firm and selected Gibson, Reddick, Patterson, LLC. And this will be their third year in providing that annual audit. This year, the fee is at $12,500. And you'll note from item number 10, we've actually budgeted a little bit of contingency fund for this. But subject to your question, then I would recommend approval so that we can begin the fiscal year 17 audit.
And this also was reviewed by the,
Review.
Yes.
okay, great.
Move to
Any
approve.
questions? Thank you.
Second.
Okay, item number 12, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So thank you to Chairman Parker and the other Finance Committee. Appreciate your work. So unless there's any other business in front of the RMA, I'd like a motion to adjourn at, well, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Can I have a second? I assume there's a second in
Second.
there somewhere. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. We are now adjourned. The RMA is now adjourned on August 9th, 2017 at 10:16 a.m. Thank you, everyone.